Imagine that for hundreds of years, people around the world have seen one image of Jesus, the light-skinned, brown-haired figure painted in European cathedrals, seen in movies, and printed in books. But what if I told you that there's a completely different version of Jesus, one that has been hidden, buried beneath stone churches in Ethiopia, painted centuries before the world was introduced to the image we all recognize today? The ancient city of Lalibela in Ethiopia has churches unlike any other. They were not built, they were carved. Hewn directly from solid rock, these churches were dug into the earth itself over 900 years ago, creating a network of underground cathedrals, tunnels, and passageways that have stood frozen in time. Hidden in one of these churches lies a forgotten masterpiece, a painting from the 1100's that depicts Jesus and his apostles with dark skin, curly hair, and features that reflect the very land in which Christianity first took root. This painting is not just a work of art. It is a piece of history that challenges everything we thought we knew. It tells the story of an African Christianity, one that existed long before colonization and European influence reshaped the faith's visual identity. For centuries, believers have made a sacred journey through a 30-meter tunnel of absolute darkness. This passage, known as the Tunnel of Hell, is meant to symbolize the suffering of the soul, the struggles of life, and the final test before reaching salvation. Imagine walking through this tunnel. You cannot see, you cannot hear much, except the sound of your own breathing. You are alone with your thoughts, your fears, and your faith. It is said that those who make it through to the other side experience something incredible, a feeling of being reborn, as if they have truly crossed from the darkness of the world into the light of heaven. But the trip is not just a symbolic experience. This journey leads to something tangible. At the other end of the tunnel, in the church of Beta Mercurius, is the image of Jesus. This painting's one of the oldest depictions of Christ in existence, and yet few people in the world even know it exists. Why has this image, this piece of history, remained hidden for so long? Throughout history, the image of Jesus has changed many times. Different cultures have painted him to reflect their own people, their own traditions. However, a significant portion of Western art portrays Jesus with European characteristics such as pale skin, light brown, or even blonde hair, and blue eyes. But Ethiopia tells a different story. Christianity was in Ethiopia long before it reached Europe. In fact, Ethiopia is one of the oldest Christian nations in the world, with its faith dating back to the 4th century, almost 1,700 years ago. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has preserved its teachings, art, and traditions for centuries, separate from European influence. The painting in Beta Mercurius is a powerful reminder that Jesus was not European. His roots were in the Middle East and Africa, and for the Ethiopian people, this has never been a secret. The ancient Ethiopian Christians who built these churches saw faith in a way that much of the world had forgotten. They built their beliefs, traditions, and devotion not solely on stone, but on a connection to something greater. The tunnel of darkness, the passage through suffering before reaching the light, symbolized more than just a test. It was the journey of the soul. The Bible speaks of darkness, of a place where the lost wander, where suffering is endless, where those without salvation are cast away. Matthew 8:12 says, "The unworthy will be cast into outer darkness, where they weep and gnash their teeth." The tunnel mirrors this idea, a shadow of what awaits beyond the mortal world, a place where fear is real, where faith is tested. Remember to join our community by subscribing to this channel. But beyond the darkness, at the journey's end, light flooded the senses. The transition from complete blackness to the golden glow of ancient religious paintings was overwhelming. Faces emerged from the shadows, biblical figures, saints, apostles, and at the center the face of Christ, captured in deep pigments that had not faded. untouched by time. The one in question was not the European Christ seen in Renaissance art, nor the delicate features displayed in Western cathedrals. This was an African Christ, a figure born from the roots of the land, painted by the hands of those who worshipped him centuries before modern Christianity spread across the continents. The image stood in defiance of what later history attempted to erase. Ethiopia never forgot. Ethiopia never changed the story. Christianity in Ethiopia existed long before it reached Europe, dating back to the 4th century, when the Kingdom of Aksum became one of the first nations to embrace the faith. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church carried traditions that remained unshaken by time, untouched by colonial influence. The paintings, the rituals, the sacred texts, everything remained as it was, preserving a version of history that much of the world never saw. The painting depicted not just Christ, but an entire story lost to modern interpretation. The apostles, painted beside him, bore the same features, their presence a reminder that Christianity was never confined to a single region or race. Below them, Roman soldiers attempted to strike them down, arrows flying through the air, yet the arrows fell to the ground, unable to touch them. A miracle frozen in paint, a testament to faith's power. Mainstream teachings never fully incorporated Ethiopia's Christian history. The rise of Western influence overshadowed Ethiopia's role, despite being one of the oldest Christian nations in the world. Many people forgot the African kings and scholars who contributed to biblical history. The Ethiopian wise men, believed to be among those who visited Christ at his birth, were lost to diluted versions of the story. The very image of Christ that had been preserved here for centuries was erased from global consciousness. Deep beneath Lalibela, whispers of greater secrets persist. Some believe that within the hidden chambers, ancient relics still lie undiscovered. According to Ethiopian tradition, generations have guarded the Ark of the Covenant in secrecy. The tunnels, the cellars, the forgotten churches, each one a chapter waiting to be read, each painting a voice from the past calling to be seen. Several biblical passages describe Jesus with features that many associate with African and Middle Eastern heritage. These descriptions challenge the traditional European depictions and open up discussions about Jesus' true origins and identity. His head and his hair were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were like a flame of fire. His feet were like burnished bronze, as refined in a furnace. Revelation 1:14-15. This passage from the book of Revelation describes a powerful vision of Jesus. Two details stand out. Hair-like, wool. Woolly hair is often associated with tightly curled, textured hair, which is common among African and Middle Eastern people. Feet like burnished bronze. Bronze is a metal that has a deep brown hue. When burned in a furnace, it darkens even more. This detail suggests dark, brown-toned skin. These descriptions strongly contrast with the pale skin depictions of Jesus in Western art. Instead, they match the features of people from the regions where Jesus lived, Judea, Egypt, and surrounding Middle Eastern areas. At that time, these populations had deep brown skin, similar to modern Middle Eastern and African people. I am dark, but comely, O daughters of Jerusalem, like the tents of Kedar, like the curtains of Solomon. Do not look down on me, because I am dark, because the sun has scorched me. Song of Solomon 1:5-6. This passage describes a person with deep, sun-darkened skin who is proud of their beauty despite facing discrimination. Some interpretations suggest that such an individual could be linked to Jesus and his ancestry, particularly because the lineage of King Solomon includes several figures from regions known for their darker skin populations. The phrase dark but beautiful suggests that darker skin was both recognized and respected. The mention of the tents of Kedar is important. Kedar was a descendant of Ishmael, whose people were known for their rich, dark complexion. The sun has scorched me, implies a natural deep skin tone, made even darker by exposure to the sun, common in the Middle East and Africa. This verse does not directly describe Jesus, but it gives insight into the physical characteristics of people in his lineage, strengthening the theory that Jesus himself likely had darker skin. Jesus was born in Bethlehem, raised in Nazareth, and spent time in Egypt as a child. These locations were home to people with brown to dark skin, as they were part of the Middle Eastern and North African region. In ancient times, this area was connected to Africa both culturally and ethnically. Many Jewish communities in Egypt, Ethiopia, and surrounding lands were deeply rooted in African heritage. In fact, even today, Ethiopian Jews, who have lived in Africa for thousands of years, maintain many of the traditions from biblical times. Additionally, Jesus' ancestors included figures like Tamar, Canaanite, Rahab, Canaanite, and Bathsheba, likely of African descent. These were non-European people, meaning that Jesus' lineage had strong ties to African and Middle Eastern populations. It's often overlooked that Jesus spent part of his childhood in Egypt. When King Herod ordered the killing of all male babies under 2 years old, Mary and Joseph took Jesus and fled to Egypt for safety, Matthew 2:13-15. Egypt at that time was home to people with dark skin. If Jesus and his parents had looked European, they would have stood out among the locals. Instead, they blended in, meaning Jesus likely resembled the people of Egypt who were historically brown or black-skinned. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. Isaiah 53:2. This passage suggests that Jesus' appearance was ordinary. He did not stand out as a particularly attractive man. This interpretation challenges the popular Western depictions of Jesus as a striking, handsome figure. Instead, he likely looked like the common working-class men of his time, people with strong features, brown skin, and dark hair. For centuries, the image of Jesus has been shaped by art, culture, and tradition. In most churches, movies, and books, Jesus is shown as a tall, light-skinned man with long, flowing hair and European features. But science, history, and archaeology tell a very different story, one that brings us closer to the truth of who Jesus really was. Instead of relying on paintings from the Middle Ages, modern scientists use DNA studies, facial reconstruction, and historical records to find answers. These scientific methods help us understand what the people of Jesus' time actually looked like, and the results might surprise many. One of the biggest pieces of evidence comes from genetic studies of people who lived in the region thousands of years ago. Scientists have studied the DNA of ancient bones found in Israel, Egypt, and surrounding areas. Are you enjoying the story? Support our channel by clicking the subscribe button. Their findings show that light skin was extremely rare among the people of Judea in Jesus' time. Most people had dark brown skin, similar to modern Middle Eastern and North African people. Dark, curly hair was common, rather than long, flowing, straight hair. In 2001, British archaeologist Richard Neve and a team of forensic experts used scientific technology to recreate the face of a Jewish man from Jesus' time. Neve was an expert in forensic facial reconstruction, the same method used to identify unknown people in crime investigations. To build an accurate image, his team studied skulls from the 1st century, the time of Jesus, were found in Israel and surrounding areas. DNA and genetic studies of ancient Jewish populations have been conducted. Historical records document the physical characteristics of Semitic people during that era. Using this data, they created a scientifically accurate face of what an average Jewish man of Jesus' time would have looked like. The final result was very different from the European paintings of Jesus. Instead of light skin and straight hair, the reconstruction showed a man with brown skin, dark curly hair, and a broad nose. A shorter stature than the tall Jesus seen in Western art. A strong Middle Eastern face, shaped by a harsh, desert climate. This was the first time science gave us a realistic look at the face of Jesus. The image was shared around the world and shocked many people who had only seen the light-skinned, long-haired version of Jesus in Western culture. Neve's work was not meant to be an exact portrait of Jesus himself, since no one knows exactly what he looked like, but it was a reconstruction of the type of people who lived in his region at the time. For centuries, people have wondered whether the Vatican, the center of the Roman Catholic Church, has hidden secrets about Jesus' true identity. Some believe that deep within the Vatican's archives, there are ancient documents that describe Jesus as a dark-skinned Middle Eastern man with African features. According to these theories, these documents were hidden to protect the Church's influence over non-European people. If Jesus was publicly recognized as a man of color, it could have challenged the power structures that European empires built through Christianity. Instead, the image of a light-skinned Jesus became the accepted version, shaping the way millions of people saw him. The Vatican Apostolic Archive, formerly called the Vatican Secret Archive, is one of the most mysterious and well-protected places on Earth. It holds millions of documents, some dating back over 1,000 years. These include: the collection includes ancient religious texts and letters from early Christian leaders. These texts include handwritten accounts of historical events that shaped the Church, lost scriptures that were removed from the official Bible. Only a select few scholars and historians can enter, and even then, they require special permission. The Vatican claims that this secrecy is necessary to protect fragile documents and prevent misinformation, but many believe there is something deeper going on. Making this information public centuries ago could have changed history. The way people understood race, power, and religion might have been completely different. During the early years of Christianity, Jesus was not usually depicted as light-skinned. In some of the oldest surviving paintings of Jesus, found in Egypt and the Middle East, he is shown with dark skin, curly hair, and strong Semitic features. However, when Christianity spread to Europe, something changed. As Christianity spread in Europe during the Roman Empire, depictions of Jesus in artwork began to change. The European rulers who adopted Christianity wanted a Jesus that looked more like them. During the Renaissance, 13th to 16th centuries, artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo painted a pale-skinned, blue-eyed Jesus. This version of Jesus became popular across Europe and eventually spread to the rest of the world through colonization and missionary work. Many historians believe that this new image of Jesus helped European powers justify their control over non-European people. If Jesus looked European, then European rulers and colonizers could claim that they were closer to God than people from Africa, Asia, or the Americas. This false idea was used to support slavery, colonialism, and racial discrimination. But if the Vatican had evidence that Jesus was actually dark-skinned, why would they keep it hidden? Religious power is deeply connected to the stories people believe. If Jesus had always been publicly depicted as a man of color, history might have unfolded very differently. Non-European civilizations would have had a stronger claim to Christianity, and the racial power structures that formed in later centuries would have been harder to justify. Some theorists believe that the Vatican may have intentionally suppressed certain historical records to maintain control over religious teachings. They argue that documents proving Jesus' true heritage may have been locked away in the Vatican archives. The Church promoted a European-looking Jesus to strengthen its authority in the Western world. Non-European Christians were led to believe they were less important in the faith, even though Jesus likely looked more like them. While there is no public proof that the Vatican has hidden documents about Jesus' real appearance, the extreme secrecy of their archives has led many to question what they are hiding. Another major reason people suspect the Vatican is hiding the truth is because of the lost books of the Bible. In the early days of Christianity, many different writings were considered holy. The church later removed some of these texts from the official Bible because they did not align with the teachings it wanted to promote. Some of these lost Gospels include: the Gospel of Thomas is an ancient text that describes Jesus' words in a different way from the 4 official Gospels. If you found this story eye-opening, consider clicking Super Thanks. Your support helps us uncover more hidden truths and bring history back to light. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene, a text that suggests Mary Magdalene was an important disciple, possibly even one of Jesus' closest followers. The Gospel of the Ebionites, a gospel used by a Jewish Christian group that emphasized Jesus' connection to Jewish traditions and non-European heritage. If these Gospels and other hidden texts reveal a different image of Jesus, one that does not match the European version, the Vatican may have kept them secret to maintain its traditional teachings. For centuries, the image of Jesus was reshaped to fit a narrative that served power and influence. But history, science, and faith now reveal a different reality. Jesus was a man of color, deeply connected to the Middle East and Africa. This truth does not change his message of love, unity, and faith, but it restores his true identity, honoring the people and culture he belonged to. While some may find it uncomfortable, it is a necessary step toward understanding history as it truly was. What was once hidden is now being uncovered. The real Jesus is not lost. He is rising from the past, reclaiming his place in history, not to divide, but to unite. Thanks for watching. Join our community by subscribing to this channel. Until the next video.